Imagine that this feeling of a bloated stomach that clings to you from the moment you get out of bed, this persistent heaviness that sets in after every meal, these gases that show up at the worst possible moments, and this exhausting morning struggle in the bathroom. What if none of that were actually an inevitable consequence of aging? I know what you've probably been told in doctor's offices, that digestion inevitably slows down with the years, that it's just biology talking, and you have to learn to live with it. You walked away with a new box of laxatives in your hands, one more line added to your medication list, and a thought weighing heavily on your mind. Is this really my life from now on? And yet, what I'm about to share with you may well shake some of your certainties. What is commonly referred to as normal digestive aging is, in the vast majority of cases, the result of three precise mechanisms that can be identified and, above all, corrected, without lifelong treatment, without invasive medical procedures, and without a significant budget. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal these three mechanisms that no one has ever clearly explained to you. I'm going to offer you a 5-step approach grounded in human physiology that you can begin implementing as early as tonight. And I'm going to illustrate through real patient stories what can genuinely be achieved when you decide to work with your body rather than against it. I am a physician specializing in digestive health for people over 60. What I'm sharing with you today does not come from a commercial pitch or a passing trend. It's the result of 20 years spent listening to desperate patients, studying their test results, and building approaches that actually hold up over time. Let me tell you about Elizabeth. She was 73 years old when she first walked into my office. Under her arm, a binder as thick as a novel, lab results, ultrasound reports, prescriptions of every kind. She sat down across from me with that look I recognize every time, a deep fatigue tinged with quiet resignation. "Doctor, I've been through it all. I exercise, I eat well, I stay hydrated, so why isn't anything changing?" Elizabeth was a grandmother, deeply devoted to her grandchildren, but the constant bloating, the gases that embarrassed her in public, and the daily struggle to use the bathroom had stolen far more from her than physical comfort. They had stolen her lightness. She no longer went to church without dread. She turned down dinner invitations. She planned every outing by first locating the nearest accessible restrooms. She had given up traveling with her family to avoid burdening others with her constraints. She described the colonic hydrotherapy sessions, expensive, offering a few days of relief before everything came back. The laxative herbal teas that triggered cramps so violent she ended up curled up on her bathroom floor in the middle of the night. The apple cider vinegar taken on an empty stomach every morning, which burned her stomach badly enough to cause nausea. The costly probiotics with no visible effect. The supplements based on aloe vera, activated charcoal, and psyllium. She had tried everything, and her previous doctor had assured her it was inevitable at her age. Here is what I said to Elizabeth, and what I want you to receive with the same clarity today. Your body is not broken. You are not condemned to live this way for the rest of your days. Medications and supplements often fail because they target the visible symptoms of the problem, not its roots. Giving a stimulant laxative to an intestine that no longer functions properly is like pressing the accelerator on a dead engine. There may be a jolt, but the breakdown remains entirely intact. I told Elizabeth something that changed her relationship with her own body. Your bloating is not your enemy. It's a message. Your intestine is asking for help in the only way it knows how. And when you shift from the posture of someone fighting their body to that of someone supporting it, everything transforms. Let me now explain the mechanics of what is happening inside you in a concrete and accessible way. Picture a long underground tunnel with contractile walls. That tunnel is your intestine. Under normal conditions, successive muscular waves, what doctors call peristalsis, progressively push the contents toward the exit. It's a fluid, coordinated movement, like a river flowing through its bed. But when the intestine slows down, everything accumulates. Food in the process of being digested stays put and begins to ferment under the action of intestinal bacteria. This fermentation generates significant volumes of gas, hydrogen, methane,
carbon dioxide. At the same time, the water contained in the stool is gradually reabsorbed through the intestinal wall, making it progressively harder and more difficult to expel. And it is this internal pressure, this progressive distension, that you experience as bloating or a sensation of blockage. What you need to understand is that your intestine is not permanently blocked. It is simply waiting for a specific signal to restart. And that signal exists, it is accessible, and it costs nothing. Here is one of the most essential points of what I am going to lay out for you, and likely the least known. The origin of your bloating, your persistent gas, and your chronic constipation does not lie in the large intestine, as most people assume. It takes root in the stomach, and more precisely, in what happens or fails to happen in your body every morning in the half hour following the moment you wake. Most people suffering from chronic constipation are convinced that their colon is clogged, that it needs to be purged, cleaned, forced. That's why they invest in irrigations, detox cures, or purgative herbal preparations. But the physiological reality is entirely different. Your colon is waiting for an instruction from upstream, a signal that never arrives. And that signal originates every morning in your empty stomach. Now let's look at the 3 overlooked causes of your digestive discomfort. The first hidden cause is silent dehydration. I'm not talking about thirst. Thirst is already a late signal, an alarm the body triggers when it is already in a slight hydric deficit. I'm talking about a far more subtle phenomenon: intestinal cells that are chronically underhydrated, even in someone who thinks they drink regularly. How is this possible? Because when you drink matters just as much as how much you drink. If your first drink of the morning is coffee, you begin the day by actively draining your digestive system of water. Caffeine is a diuretic. It prompts the kidneys to eliminate more fluid than you have absorbed. Result, your intestine starts the day with a hydric deficit. Now, the intestine needs water to secrete the mucus gel that lines its walls and allows stool to progress without friction. Without adequate hydration at the right time, stool hardens and adheres to the intestinal wall. This phenomenon is not painful in the short term, but it progressively irritates the entire system and establishes that cycle of chronic constipation that is difficult to break without understanding the mechanism behind it. An aggravating factor frequently affects people over 60. The perception of thirst diminishes with age. The body sends its warning signals less strongly and less promptly. One can therefore find himself in a state of chronic dehydration without having the slightest awareness of it. The second hidden cause is the dormant reflex. Your body is equipped with an automatic mechanism that is absolutely central to your digestive transit. It's called the gastrocolic reflex. It is a direct, nearly instantaneous communication between the stomach and the colon. Its functioning is simple. When something enters an empty stomach, the gastric walls stretch. This stretching sends a nerve and hormonal signal to the colon indicating, "Get ready, content is arriving, make room." The colon responds with a series of contractions that propel the stool toward the rectal ampulla. This reflex is particularly strong in the morning upon waking because the stomach has been empty for many hours. This is why people with healthy digestion naturally feel the urge to use the bathroom shortly after breakfast. It's not a coincidence, it is pure physiology. The problem arises when over many years you swallow your breakfast on the run without giving your empty stomach a strong enough signal to trigger this chain reaction. Through lack of use, the reflex gradually fades. Like a doorbell nobody rings, eventually it stops responding. Your intestine no longer knows when it's supposed to work. The good news is that a dormant reflex is not a dead reflex. It can be reawakened, and we are about to look at exactly how to help it do that. The third hidden cause is the fiber trap. You were advised to increase your fiber intake. Your doctor recommended it.
Health magazines have repeated it. You made sincere efforts, more green vegetables, whole grains, legumes, perhaps even psyllium supplements. And yet, instead of better transit, you ended up with more bloating, more gas, more abdominal pressure. And you told yourself you were truly a hopeless case. It's not you. It's the incomplete information you were given. The truth about fiber that nobody tells you in full. Fiber needs water to do its job. Soluble fiber absorbs water and forms a lubricating gel that facilitates transit. Insoluble fiber absorbs water and swells to stimulate intestinal contractions. In both cases, without sufficient hydration, fiber doesn't fulfill its role. Worse, it forms a compact mass that adds to the blockage already present. Increasing fiber without simultaneously increasing hydration is like pouring extra gravel into a pipe that's already partially obstructed. It is the second most frequent mistake I encounter in consultation, and it stems purely from a lack of information, not from any fault on your part. Now that you understand what is truly causing your problem, let me give you the precise 5-step approach I offered to Elizabeth, the same one that has transformed the digestive lives of hundreds of patients in my practice. Step 1 is the physiological ignition, warm water on an empty stomach. This is the foundation of everything that follows, the step upon which all the rest depends. Before touching your phone, before coffee, before any food, before even turning on the radio, you are going to drink between 300 and 500 milliliters of warm water. Not cold, not boiling, warm, close to body temperature, between 36 and 40 degrees Celsius. This temperature difference is not trivial. Cold water ingested on an empty stomach triggers a contraction reflex in the smooth gastric muscles. Yet you need precisely those muscles to relax so that the digestive system wakes up gently. Warm water, on the contrary, has an immediately relaxing effect on the walls of the stomach and intestines, like a warm bath administered from the inside. 3 effects occur simultaneously when you drink this water. First, it fills your empty stomach. The gentle distension of the gastric walls activates the gastrocolic reflex you had gradually switched off. This is literally the start button of your colon. Second, the water moves quickly toward the small intestine and then the colon, unslowed by any food. It immediately begins to rehydrate the stool and soften what has compacted overnight. Third, it breaks the overnight fast with the ideal chemical and mechanical signal. No caffeine, no sugar, no digestive burden, allowing the entire system to start up progressively and naturally. Studies on intestinal transit in elderly individuals show that this single habit can reduce transit time by nearly 45%. That figure is remarkable. Almost half the time spent with that heavy abdomen and that sense of pressure gone. Elizabeth told me that after just 3 mornings with this ritual, she experienced her first easy, complete, effortless bowel movement in months. Not painful, not forced, simply natural, as it always should have been. Step 2 is the gentle osmotic ally, soaked prunes. The evening before, place 4 to 5 dried prunes in a glass of room temperature water and let them soak overnight. The following morning, after your warm water, eat those prunes. And, this is the crucial point that the vast majority of people overlook, drink the soaking water as well. Why is this combination so effective? Prunes contain 2 remarkable natural assets. The first is their fiber, both soluble and insoluble, which adds bulk to the stool and softens it. The second is sorbitol. Sorbitol is a natural sugar that the small intestine can only absorb in limited quantities. When it reaches the colon in higher concentrations, it acts as a biological sponge. It draws water from the surrounding tissues into the interior of the colon through osmosis. More water in the colon means softer, bulkier, easier to expel stool. By soaking the prunes overnight, part of this sorbitol dissolves into the soaking water. That is precisely why it is essential to drink it. It contains a concentrated dose of this gentle, natural laxative, with no synthetic compounds and no risk of dependence. Combined with morning hydration, this duo constitutes a coherent physiological approach that respects your digestive system. Step 3 is intestinal soothing, Fennel tea. Let's now address the bloating and gas that cause you so much discomfort and embarrassment. To address them, you're going to incorporate fennel seed tea into your daily routine. Preparation: 1 teaspoon of whole fennel seeds in a cup of simmering water. Cover the cup to retain the volatile active compounds. Steep for 10 minutes. Strain. Drink warm, 2 to 3 cups per day, preferably after main meals.
Fennel belongs to the family of plants known as carminatives, those that facilitate the expulsion of intestinal gas. Their mechanism of action is well documented in the scientific literature. Their main active compound, anethol, acts directly on the smooth muscles of the intestinal wall. It relaxes them. This muscular relaxation produces two simultaneous effects. First, it calms the spasms and abdominal cramps that often accompany gas buildup. Second, and this is the key point, it allows the gas trapped in the folds of the intestine to move freely and be expelled, instead of remaining blocked and causing that painful pressure and distended belly. Fennel does not suppress gas production, which is entirely normal in any healthy intestine. It facilitates the movement and expulsion of gas, transforming a painful accumulation into a discrete and painless process. Elizabeth told me that after 2 weeks of incorporating fennel into her daily routine, she had recovered something she believed she had lost for good: the ability to share a family meal without dreading what would follow. The embarrassing gas had practically disappeared. Step 4 is direct stimulation, abdominal massage. Sometimes the intestine needs an impulse from the outside, a concrete, immediate, and accessible form of mechanical assistance. The colonic abdominal massage is a technique that has been used for decades in palliative care, neurological rehabilitation, and geriatric medicine departments, precisely because its effectiveness against constipation is well established, and you can practice it alone at home without any equipment. Here is the precise technique. Lie on your back with your knees bent to release the abdominal muscles. Using the tips of 2 or 3 fingers held together, begin in the lower right quadrant of your abdomen, just above the right iliac crest. Make small, gentle but firm circles, slowly moving up along the right side toward the ribs. Then cross horizontally from right to left just below the rib cage. Then descend along the left side down to the left groin. You are tracing the exact anatomical path of your colon: the ascent on the right side, ascending colon; the crossing under the ribs, transverse colon; the descent on the left side, descending colon. Repeat this path for 5 to 10 minutes, each morning upon waking or each evening before sleep. The principle is purely mechanical. You physically mobilize the contents of the colon in the direction of natural transit, and you stimulate the nerve endings of the abdominal wall that communicate with the enteric nervous system, what some call the second brain. For people with limited mobility, this massage can partially compensate for the intestinal stimulation normally provided by walking and physical activity. It is simple, free, and clinically effective. Step 5 is intelligent, continuous hydration. Everything we have put in place up to this point rests on a shared foundation: water. Not water drunk in bulk in the morning and then forgotten, but water distributed thoughtfully throughout the day. Here are the practical rules. Always keep a glass or bottle of water visible and within reach, not in a cabinet, not in another room, but right in front of you. Studies on health behaviors show that the visual presence of a glass of water significantly increases the amounts consumed throughout the day with no conscious effort required. Don't drink only in response to thirst. As we have seen, thirst already signals a slight deficit. Drink in an anticipatory and regular way, in small sips spread throughout the day. For people frequently awakened by their bladder at night, concentrate your liquid intake in the first half of the day. Aim to consume the greater part of your fluids before 5 p.m. Your transit will benefit and your sleep will be protected. Why mention sleep in a topic about digestion? Because sleep deprivation profoundly disrupts the hormones that regulate intestinal motility. Cortisol, melatonin, and peptide YY, a digestive hormone, all depend on sleep quality.
An intestine belonging to someone who sleeps poorly is an intestine that works poorly. This is a biological reality that is consistently underestimated in the management of digestive disorders. Round out this hydration strategy with wisely chosen fiber, leafy green vegetables, whole fruits with their skin, oat flakes at breakfast.
And if you consume chia or flax seeds, always soak them in water before swallowing them. These seeds can absorb up to 10 times their weight in liquid. Eaten dry, they draw that water directly from your colon, making precisely what you were trying to correct even worse. George was 69 years old when he came in for his first consultation. A retired long-haul truck driver, a man of few words, he had spent decades motionless behind his steering wheel, eating at highway rest stops, sleeping at irregular hours, drinking little. At 50, he had started taking stimulant laxatives from time to time. By 56, it was every 2 or 3 days. By 69, without a laxative, his intestines simply did not move. He told me with blunt directness, "My intestine has lost the habit of working on its own." That is a biologically accurate description. The prolonged use of stimulant laxatives creates a functional dependency. The intestine, continuously prompted by external chemical agents, gradually ceases to respond to its own nervous stimuli. It loses the memory of autonomous functioning. I recommended the same approach to him. Warm water every morning, soaked prunes, fennel tea after meals, daily abdominal massage, regular conscious hydration. The first week, nothing spectacular happened. That is expected. An intestine that has been on pharmacological support for 20 years does not wake up in 48 hours. The second week, George called me. 2 spontaneous bowel movements without laxatives. For him, it was an enormous victory. By the end of the first month, he had reduced his laxative use by 80%. By the end of the second month, he had stopped them entirely. His body had recovered the memory of autonomous functioning. Not thanks to a miracle product, but because it had been given back the conditions in which it could once again work on its own. Now that you know what to do, it is essential that you also know what to avoid. These mistakes are very common and can cancel out all the benefits of the protocol or even make your situation worse. Mistake number 1, using stimulant laxatives as a first response. Preparations based on senna, cascara, or bisacodyl work by chemically irritating the nerves of the intestinal wall to provoke contractions. They work quickly, that's true, but that speed comes at a cost. Used regularly, they progressively desensitize the intestinal nerves. The intestine demands increasingly strong stimulation to react, and eventually, like a muscle that is overloaded without ever being given time to recover, it finally gives out. This is what is called iatrogenic lazy colon syndrome, rendered inactive by the very treatment itself. Mistake number 2, drinking cold water on an empty stomach in the morning. Cold water on an empty stomach triggers a contraction reflex in the smooth gastric muscles, exactly the opposite of what you are looking for. Only warm water produces that progressive relaxing effect that activates the gastrocolic reflex. Mistake number 3, increasing fiber without increasing water intake. This point has already been raised, but it bears repeating. Never modify your fiber consumption without simultaneously adjusting your water intake. These 2 variables are inseparable. One without the other not only doesn't work, it can make things worse. Mistake number 4, expecting immediate results and giving up too soon. The digestive system is a slow organ with deeply ingrained memories and habits. A change in dietary and hydration routine will not produce visible results within 24 hours for everyone. Some people notice a difference as early as the 3rd day. Others need 2 weeks. Give your body the time to relearn and adapt. Mistake number 5, ignoring the impact of stress. This may seem surprising in a discussion about digestion, but your digestive system is directly connected to your brain through the vagus nerve, the neural highway linking the brain to all the internal organs. Chronic stress releases cortisol, which inhibits intestinal contractions and alters the composition of the microbiome.
Several of my patients have seen their constipation improve significantly simply by adopting 10 minutes of deep abdominal breathing each morning. This is not an esoteric practice, it is applied neurophysiology. This approach is intended for chronic functional constipation, the most common kind, the one with no serious underlying medical cause. But certain signs require an immediate medical consultation. Consult a doctor without delay if you notice bright red blood in the stool or stool that is black and tarry, which may indicate a digestive bleed, intense abdominal pain, especially accompanied by fever, persistent vomiting associated with bloating,
rapid and unexplained weight loss, or constipation that appears suddenly in someone who had not previously suffered from it after the age of 50. These situations may reveal serious pathologies, colorectal tumor, intestinal obstruction, inflammatory bowel disease that require urgent medical evaluation. When in doubt, consult your doctor before starting any new dietary protocol, particularly if you suffer from heart failure, kidney failure, diabetes, or a neurological condition. There remains one aspect of your digestive health that deserves your attention: your intestinal microbiome. The hundreds of billions of microorganisms that inhabit your colon are not simply passive residents. They actively participate in your transit, in the synthesis of certain vitamins, in the regulation of inflammation, and even in your mood through the gut-brain axis. With age, the diversity of the microbiome tends to decrease. Certain beneficial bacterial families gradually disappear. This imbalance, called dysbiosis, directly contributes to bloating, excess gas, and slow transit. The 5 steps of the approach I have presented do not target only the mechanics of transit. They also create the conditions under which your microbiome can rebalance naturally. Morning warm water promotes a healthy intestinal environment. Prunes nourish beneficial colonic bacteria through their prebiotic fiber. Fennel has selective antimicrobial properties that curb gas-producing bacteria without affecting the useful flora. And adequate hydration preserves the intestinal mucus layer that protects and sustains your microbiome. To go even further, regularly incorporate naturally fermented foods into your diet. Plain whole milk yogurt, milk or water kefir, lacto-fermented vegetables such as sauerkraut or natural pickles. These foods deliver live, beneficial bacteria to your intestine without the often prohibitive cost of probiotic capsules. 3 months after our first meeting, Elizabeth came back to my office, with the same binder, but with a completely different look in her eyes. It was no longer the look of someone searching for an answer. It was the look of someone who had found one. Her biological inflammation markers had gone down. Her energy levels had risen. Her sleep had noticeably improved. When I asked her what had concretely changed in her daily life, her answer was immediate. I no longer build my day around the bathroom. Last week, I went to the theater with my grandchildren, and we had dinner at a restaurant afterward. I didn't think about my stomach even once the whole evening. That hadn't happened to me in years. The same basic ingredients available at any grocery store. A different preparation, a different rhythm. Warm water upon waking instead of coffee on an empty stomach. Soaked prunes instead of chemical laxatives. Fennel instead of antispasmodics. 10 minutes of massage instead of anxiety. And a bottle of water always within reach. That is all that changed. Here is what I invite you to do. This evening, before going to bed, place 4 to 5 prunes in a glass of water on your nightstand or in your kitchen. Also prepare a large glass or bottle of water for the next morning. Tomorrow, before anything else, before your phone, before coffee, before even opening the shutters, drink your warm water. Give your body 2 days, just 2 days, to show you what it is capable of when it is offered the right conditions. And when you feel that shift, that lightness you may have forgotten for so long, share your experience in the comments. Tell us what changed for you. Which day you noticed the first difference. Which step had the most impact on your comfort. Your testimony may be exactly what someone else needs to dare to take the first step. Your bloating, your gas, your constipation are not a permanent sentence.
They are not normal simply because you have accumulated years of living. They are messages your body is sending you to let you know it needs support, not combat. Morning warm water reignites the switch of the gastrocolic reflex. Soaked prunes provide the natural lubricant and gentle osmotic agent. Fennel dissipates the internal storm of gas. Massage directly activates the peristaltic mechanism. Distributed hydration keeps the entire system in motion. These 5 elements form a coherent, complete system that addresses your problem from every angle simultaneously. And their chief advantage is that they create no dependency whatsoever. They do not constrain your body. They remind it how to function on its own. Your body possesses a remarkable intelligence. It knows exactly how to restore itself once it is given the right conditions. Your role is not to force it. It is to listen to it, to support it, and to trust it.
Elizabeth now goes to the theater and restaurants with her grandchildren. George stopped taking laxatives after 20 years of daily use. What will your story be? If this video has given you something, share it with someone close to you who may have been suffering in silence for years. Such a simple gesture can change someone's daily life. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring together the keys to natural and lasting health. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new video. And keep this in mind, your body is not failing you. It is simply waiting for you to reach out to it. Start tonight. Start now. See you very soon.